How's it going, YouTube? Happy Friday to most of us in the world, and for you folks in Ukraine, we're rooting for you best we can. We really do hope you guys can hang on long enough to inspire the Russians to go home and leave you be, but we know the odds are against you. But for most of us, all we've got are thoughts and prayers, and we're sending them your way best we can. We're really hoping for you guys to sustain your resistance and inspire Russia to leave you alone, let you remain an independent nation, able to choose your own destiny in accordance with the desired political will of the people of Ukraine. But, you know, that remains to be seen whether or not that will actually happen, but still, we're hopeful for you. At the same time, I suppose condolences are in order for the ghost of Kyiv. Yesterday morning, I started hearing some rumors on the internet, or was it Wednesday night, one of the two, that not long after hostilities began in earnest, or within about a day, apparently there was a Ukrainian MiG-29 pilot who had shot down 6 Russian aircraft, which would have made that gentleman the first modern ace, at least in terms of the 2000s, first modern ace, first ace of the 21st century in terms of air-to-air kills. However, that has since been debunked by the Ukrainian government, very unfortunately, because just the notion of the ghost of Kyiv actually being a real person, and, you know, scoring 6 air-to-air kills against a numerically and perhaps even technologically, well, probably technologically superior opponent. I mean, that's the stuff of legend. That's the kind of stuff that'll galvanize an entire nation to fight on, you know, when there really is no need or reason or motive to fight on, because you've already had your face kicked in by a better enemy. But the truth of the matter is, as I've been given to understand it, is that as of my most recently available information, the Ukrainians at large have only brought down 7 Russian aircraft, including at least, I think, 1 helicopter only and 1 transport aircraft, maybe 2. They've only really shot down 3 or 4, at best 5 Russian fighters, which still, that's much more than a token resistance. That is definitely nothing to sneeze at. It is definitely something to be proud of in defense of one's nation. As I get myself back on the road following a lunch break. So yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate because I played the Ace Combat games on Xbox years ago, and they were a lot of fun. The story was kind of hilarious. Always a situation of where some, you know, no-name pilot comes out of nowhere and becomes this rallying symbol for an entire national defense against a surprise attack by, you know, a very heavily armed and highly skilled opponent. It's the same story game in, game out, but it was always fun because it was literally one of the best arcade slash flight sim first-person aircraft games ever made. And, you know, the stories were kind of fun, but it was always the same thing. Some Russian-style aggressor invaded some peace-loving nation, and then there were super weapons involved and these monstrous, you know, aircraft and, you know, things straight out of anime and science fiction. But still, they were just, you know, good fun. And now we had an Ace Combat situation appear thanks to the rumor mill of the internet, and for about 24 hours, I mean, the recommending that everyone mask up in major urban areas or inside public spaces or even in outdoor public spaces, just because they're looking at case counts, they're looking at hospitalizations, they're looking at deaths, and they're seeing all those numbers are going down because the Omicron wave has begun to subside. A lot of that is because, you know, nearly 2/3 of all American adults, or just all Americans in general, have received some form of vaccination. And those who have yet to vaccinate probably have been exposed to it and were just, you know, asymptomatic, or they got it, it didn't knock them out, didn't take them down, they just recovered from it naturally, and now they have the antibodies, so they are naturally, quote-unquote, immune. So, yeah, the mask mandate, essentially, well, the mask recommendation, not so much mandate, is set to go away because Illinois, again, is set to repeal theirs this coming Monday, February 28th. Oregon is going to repeal theirs, I believe, by March 19th. No word yet on Washington State. I still believe they have a statewide mask mandate in place, but I have yet to see the information from Washington State. But in fairness, I haven't followed up, so I could be speaking completely out of my backside with untrue information. So do your own research, double check it. But as far as I'm aware, Washington State remains the last holdout in terms of functional mask mandates on a statewide level. At least because they have yet to set an end date. At least, again, as far as I am aware. I could be completely out of my backside here and not speaking at all factually, so double check on your own. Make sure you're getting the proper information. Don't believe some truck on the internet because, well, I don't spend a lot of time researching everything. I absorb information from different places and I parse it for what I believe to be factual, or infer what I believe to be factual. And then, you know, I spit it out here on YouTube with an asterisk because, again, you know, I don't have all the information. I don't know what's completely right. I also don't know what is completely wrong. I have to parse it like everyone else, do my own form of fact-checking. So, you know, make of that what you will as well. But yes, we are apparently walking out of the woods at last when it comes to COVID. At long last, we still need to remain intelligent in terms of respecting each other's personal space, but as of this moment, I have no plan to get another COVID vaccination at all. I really don't. I've gotten vaccinated, I've gotten boosted. Because of where we're at with this thing, I don't see that there's going to be any real value in getting a third, in my case, jab. Because again, Johnson & Johnson was round 1, Moderna booster round 2. Some folks are saying, oh yeah, you know, you got to get another vaccine booster in, you know, 6 months or whatever. It's like, no. Done. Unless there's some overwhelming, crucial need where, you know, we get the Omega version and it actually is like 100% lethal to everyone who gets it, okay, then yeah, I'll vaccinate. It's going to keep me alive. But considering what little I know of virology and where we're at in terms of the strains of COVID-19, my assessment is that it's reached an endemic status. And yes, there is still a likelihood, if not at least a strong possibility, people could still suffer fatal consequences from contracting COVID. But the true danger to the population at large, as I understand it, is done. Again, because we vaccinated, or we had it and beat it, or we were exposed to it and just did not become symptomatic because our antibodies, our health, our immune systems just dealt with it, or whatever the case may be. So, you know, make of that what you will also. So yeah, the ghost of Kyiv was a fairy tale, but for 24 hours the internet was rallying behind Ukraine and really believing, at least there was those glimmers of hope that Ukraine could beat back Russia, and we're still hoping that happens. We're still hoping, you know, this does not become a complete takeover of Ukraine, but because I've been hearing that Russia is